Chapter 4. Carnival. We should have come earlier, Kyra said as the crew joined at the end of the queue waiting to enter the carnival grounds. There's more people than I thought, Mia said, her eyes trying to track both girls as they kept slipping out the line to check what was ahead. Cal was more concerned with the list of prices in front of the entrance portal, and he was certainly glad they had free entrance tickets, but he hadn't expected the other costs. Everything inside had to be paid with tokens, and they seemed to be more expensive than credits. The best deal was 300 tokens for 100 credits. The fact he only had 2 credits with him meant he was only going to be looking for the day. I'll get the 100 deal, Mia bent close and whispered to Cal. The girls will want to go on the rides. I'll owe you again. Then I'll have to keep you close until you repay me. She chuckled a little and Cal squeezed her hand a little tighter. The tokens were brightly colored plastic discs all embossed property of Atlas Carnivals. Value 1 token. And a serial number. Mia received 3 bags of them, and handed a bag to each of the twins who seemed more pleased than if they had found a rare part for the ship. Passing beyond the entrance portal, the noise increased. From every direction came different music and amplified voices calling each stall's wares, each trader increasing the volume to compete over his neighbor. Each music track different and all mashing into a loud din that permeated the whole area. The twins were out front, with Mia trying to keep up and Cal keeping to the rear. It was going to be a long day. The girls want to try this one, Mia said into Cal's ear. It looks too dangerous for me. In front of them was a brightly painted machine in the shape of a large dish with straight high sides. People were stood against the straight side and the dish set turning around and around, faster and faster. Then the whole disc slowly tipped up until it was spinning on its side, the passengers seeming to defy gravity as they whirled around, stuck against the side. I'll watch too, he said and watched the twins race to the small booth that took the tokens. Next time the machine stopped, there were 2 orange-clad girls clamoring to be first on, while Cal stood alongside Mia watching the procedure. Around and around with twins yelling at full voice, and then the dish turned and soon the girls flashed by up and down. The yells had stopped and it looked like their faces had turned rather pale. The twins were rather slower in leaving the machine than when they arrived, but their enthusiasm had recovered by the time they were all together. We see one over there we want to try next, Kira said, Kyra pointing. You can all come too. This entertainment was named the Mad Mouse, and it consisted of a series of small cars attached to a track. The track started up high and ran around and up and down, with the cars making sharp corners and leaving those riding to throw their hands in the air and squeal. I remember this one, Mia said over the dinner round. You'll come with me, won't you? Do I have a choice? Cal muttered under his breath, but he kept up with the others as they queued for their turn on the ride. The cars were quite narrow and only held 4 people, one behind the other. I should be first because I said about it, Kira said. I'll go first next time, Kyra said quickly. I'll go last, Cal said, happy to be left out completely really. Their turn came, and the attendant made sure everyone had a bar locked over their legs to stop them standing up in the car. Then quickly the car was driven up a steep ramp through the towering mass of metal that formed the track. A clacking sound as the car climbed higher and Cal looked out to see the whole of the carnival site. It was smaller than he imagined, but there was not a spot of unused space. And then the car was moving in the clear and the clacking sound stopped, but the car didn't. In fact it was gaining speed and with that the twins began yelling and Cal held on tighter to the side. They careered around a bend then plunged down that had squeals coming from above and then when they were going too fast to stop, the car launched itself up toward the sky and when Cal could see nothing but sky around them, they turned sharply again and he felt his stomach continue on as the rest of him turned. Luckily he hadn't eaten any breakfast yet. Up and down and left and right and women and girls yelling and squealing and him hanging on for dear life. It had to stop eventually, and when it did, he tried to pretend he had enjoyed it as much as the others had. We should see that next, Kyra said, pointing to a building that was plastered with garish paintings of frightening creatures and a sign saying the dangerous monsters from the toxic swamps of Ursa Minor 6. If we saw that, we would know what to look out for when we go there ourselves, Kira added quickly. It's only a token each, Mia said. Cal was sure he knew better things to spend the credits on, but he followed behind the others into a corridor that had small viewing windows on the left side where one at a time, someone could peer at the supposed monster of the swamp. Ahead of him were girls squealing and waving their hands about, but when it was his turn, all he saw was a man half covered with an ugly face mask, turning to rush at the window. At the other windows he saw various other swamp creatures that mostly looked like animated plastic models. Plenty of thrashing tentacles and long protruding fangs, and even a snake-like thing that had a fanged head at each end. All good fun if you didn't think too much, and the girls seemed to enjoy it. That's a ride you'll like, Mia said when they'd been frightened enough. It was signed Hover Dodgem Cars, and it did look slightly less dangerous than the other rides so far. Set within a large rectangular compound were 8 two-person hover cars. Similar to freight pods, but rather than needing to be hand-pushed, there were 2 seats and a wheel for steering. You can go with me. Cal watched the action. It seemed the idea was crash your car into as many other cars as possible. That shouldn't be much of a problem since hover cars never steered very well. We'll be best at this, Kira called out as they ran to pay the attendant. We have a video showing how good we are. More tokens passed over, and when the current game stopped and all cars were solidly on the ground, the twins ran to claim their car. You drive, Mia said. You should be able to beat them. Cal was not so sure, but it would be fun trying. The car levitated while he was still reading the instruction plate on the dash, and he found his car hit by another controlled by 2 laughing girls. One to us, Kira yelled, as Cal's car careered around and around heading toward the edge of the compound. Still learning to drive, he muttered, trying to steer straight. They're coming behind you, Mia yelled. He had the speed control on full and managed to escape from the pursuing girls. Go and get them, Mia yelled. Bash em good. As much as he tried, the closest he came to bashing the yelling twins was one glance off another car. And then the game was over. Again, Mia yelled. I'm driving. The attendant was happy to collect another round of tokens, and this time Mia was in the driving seat when the cars activated. Then the race was on. Mia had no care what was between her and the twins, other cars careering away as she charged toward the twins' car. One to me, she yelled, and not even giving the twins time to recover, she was charging after their spinning car. 2 to me. Her next hit was after using a side to bounce off. 3 to me. Her face looked like she was driving the ship in ether space. Total concentration. Hands working the controls without looking and eyes only on the target. 2 more hits before the game was over. I did enjoy that, Mia said as they all walked off the compound. It's your natural pilot skill, Cal said. We're best with hand-controlled pods, Kira said, Kyra agreeing quickly. And I'm best at watching, Cal said. Can you win that for me? Kira called to Cal, pointing to a large green 3-headed swamp creature above a sign saying Laughing Clowns. 5 balls for 2 tokens. Every player wins a prize. I like that purple tentacle doll over there, Kyra pointed. I'd rather that sweet little heart pillow, Mia said looking to Cal. Balls in the clown's mouth and add up the numbers when they come out. Winning numbers up there. The attendant was pointing to the numbered board alongside each prize. So easy even a child can win. Me first, Kyra yelled, 2 tokens held out to the attendant followed by 2 more from Kira. You can win for me, Mia said softly to Cal, pushing tokens into his hand. Studying the twins' attempts to win showed how difficult it really was. When the ball was dropped into the clown's mouth, it banged and tapped its way down the clown's covered chest until it eventually appeared bouncing down a plate where it dropped into a numbered pen. The whole thing seemed completely arbitrary, with no real way to deliberately choose a number. Consolation prize, the attendant said to each of the twins after a cursory check of their results as though he never expected them to win, and then handing them both a small fluffy green 2-headed snake hardly longer than a finger. A snake ring, Kira said, bending the snake around a finger. the thing staying there to form a ring with the two heads twisted together. Your turn, Mia said excitedly. We'll have another go too, Kira said, but Cal was too busy trying to at least make a serious attempt to win something other than a two-headed snake. 10 was the total he needed for Mia's pillow, and with 5 balls he needed a lot of ones. First ball gave him a 3, next a 1, and then a 5. It was all over and he still had 2 more balls. 8 and 6 made 23. You won my tentacle doll, Kira yelled. You won it for me. Win for me next, Kira yelled. The attendant came to see the noise, a small two-headed snake in his hand ready. A lucky win, sir, he said as he double-checked the score. Your woman will be pleased. He had to search under the bench for the prize but was finally able to present Cal with a furry purple tentacle doll, while the twins received another two-headed snake ring each, black with yellow stripe this time. I don't know what I'll do with this, Mia said. Your engineers would find a use for it, Kira said quickly. Would it be right for me to pass it on, Mia said to Cal. He nodded and there were 4 younger hands ready to grab it from Mia's hands. Maybe we should get some food now. Over there, Kira yelled. It looks good. Different is the word Cal would have used. It did smell good, but the fare looked like an auto kitchen with a program error. I had that before, Mia said, pointing to something listed as hot chips. It didn't kill me. With a recommendation like that, what have we got to lose? Hot chips for all. All sitting side by side on a bench tasting the snack. The hot chips were exactly as advertised, hot and tasty, and they did stay down well. Only half eaten and the twins were ready for more action. We suggest we split up, Kira said. You two can do that one, Kira said. That slow one with that big wheel. While we do those 2 alongside. The ones that go faster. You sure, just after this food? Mia said. We're fine, Kira said, Kira nodding. Then you come back and wait for us, Mia said. Promise. We promise, the pair said together, and they were gone still cramming food in their mouths. They're having a good time, Mia said watching after the twins. I don't like seeing them go off, Cal said softly. They won't leave you. You know that. You and the ship. And you. He watched her lift her left hand so he could clearly see her ring. Sorry. I tend to dream a bit too much sometimes. Tony's dead, you know. I keep it. A reminder. He turned his face toward hers and found her eyes looking into his. I didn't know. What do you dream? Us 4 as a family, he said clearly. The ship is our home and the galaxy our playground. Her answer was a long time in coming. That's a nice dream to hold. We better go and ride this wheel before the twins come looking. Giant wheel of love, the sign said. The machine was a large wheel fitted with gondolas that had a bench sized big enough for 2 people to sit side by side. The wheel kept on slowly turning around as the customers scampered to get seated and locked in before it lifted up high. For all the rush to get seated, the real speed of the wheel was snail pace. The whole rotation would take ages. Accident, Mia said out of the blue. I was cocooned in the pilot's couch and was hardly scratched. Only 2 others survived. He said nothing, watching her as she stared straight ahead as though determined to tell the story. Everyone blamed me but couldn't face me directly. Rumors and words behind my back. I was in control, so it was my fault really. I was soon out of a job and no one would think of employing me. At last she turned to face him. But you did. All I knew was the best ether pilot in the galaxy was so close to me, and she'd been looking for work for a long time. I kept trying to build up my nerve to ask her to join me, until I got a job that absolutely needed her to pull it off. You didn't ask about her past. I dreamed of her every day and night until nothing else mattered. And now? Now my dream woman is by my side day and night. What more could I want? You don't worry what others will say behind your back. What they'll think. My world is my ship, and the 3 other people who share it with me. No one else matters. What if you need more crew or a bigger ship? We can have children, there's room for more bunks. You'd need to find a woman to marry before you thought of children. The woman I found. Now I'm just waiting for her to agree. Mia turned her head away. We're up high now. There's your ship over there. Our ship, Cal said. It's our ship. It's our home. The giant wheel continued to slowly turn. The sight of their ship slowly disappearing to be replaced with the machines and booths of the carnival. Part of Cal said to stay quiet and part couldn't wait. I want to marry you, Mia. Doesn't have to be today, but as soon as you feel ready, I want you to be my wife. Mia was still looking directly ahead. I'm ready to wait as long as you need. Silence still until the wheel was back down to where they could exit the seat, the attendant helping them get clear ready for another couple to replace them. I see the twins. I bet they grab your hand first, she said. Back from the ride, the twins did indeed grab Cal's hands tightly, leaving Mia to stay off to the side and Cal to wonder what Mia had meant. We've still got tokens left, Kira said. Can we go on the octopus next? We'll watch, Mia said before Cal did. We'll show the way, Kira said, dragging Cal forward. This machine seemed even more dangerous, with the riders thrown around and around in a dizzying manner. Cal clasped Mia's hand as the twins queued for their turn on the ride. If I agreed, Mia began as the twins were preparing to enter the ride proper. If I agreed, you and your ship will be as shunned as I am. I never imagined us transporting official dignitaries around on planet-jumping junkets. I never thought we would just be moving boring freight from settlement to settlement. And I never planned to be in a ship that was dodging laser blasters and running from Imperial gunships. But the twins might be able to improve the shields, and anyhow, you'll enjoy pushing your steering abilities to the limit. What a proposition. Join you and end my days evading warships. Some might think that an exciting life. I don't know how those girls can keep their food down the way that machine is spinning. They take after you. Handling the disorientation of spaceflight so well. As the twins wobbled their way away from the octopus, Cal came forward to grab their hands to help stabilize them. Maybe we should look for our people with the shoes, he suggested. That's a great idea, Mia said. We can thank them for the tickets. This was one time the twins did not lead the way, instead they held on to Cal's hands and Mia guided the way ahead. The walk on solid ground quickly healed the girls, and before they found the right site, they were back offering their suggestions of what to do after. They've just been on the octopus, Mia said to the man with the shoes, both girls still holding Cal's hands. They've really been enjoying the carnival. The twins had recovered enough to begin exploring the stock of shoes while Cal studied the shelter. He could see how everything seemed to be extended from a freight pod, 3 pods forming the core of the framework and 2 looking like they held spare stock. We live in those pods, the man said alongside Cal. Mia had moved away looking with the twins. My wife is sleeping now. We take turns. A bit like you. Me. You live in your ship, don't you? Live and work, Cal said. We don't know where we're going next. Most likely about 6 weeks before we get you to move us again. You didn't mind the conditions. Nothing wrong with the conditions, and with that fast service, nothing else matters. The other shoe woman was attending to the twins, and it looked like someone was going to have to approve a sale. They were orange, of course. Orange and white shoes with lights all around the heel. They're dancing shoes, Mia said to Cal. They flash when you step. Cal stood well back while Mia paid for 3 matching pairs of orange dancing shoes. Of course they had to wear them now, so the old ones were bundled up and the bag presented to Cal to carry while the twins paraded around stepping while bright beams of orange radiated from their feet and they laughed and squealed and tapped even quicker. Mia came to report. They're fun, aren't they? Hard to stay hidden, Cal said. Makes me feel like a kid again. That woman told us where there is some different food we should try. You lead off when you're ready. Swamp monster food was the next destination, the menu offering such delights as purple tentacle cutlets and forked fang of swamp scorpion. The twins settled on roll of double-head snake, the food in the form of a long green tube that you were supposed to bite off. They cut the heads of each end and cooked them, Kira said as she bit into her tube. Whatever they really were, providing you didn't stare at the color, they were quite tasty. Both twins had seconds, but Cal was content with just one. Unfortunately, there was a very loud trader operating more of those clown games close to the food, and the girls still had some tokens left. The consolation prize was a tiny three-headed swamp creature, so they left holding 4 of them. Well, Cal found them poked into the bag holding the shoes. If we had more tokens we'd go back to that octopus again, Kira said loudly looking over to Mia. We'll wait just here. Don't be too long, Mia said, handing over more of her tokens and watching the bright flash of orange shoes disappearing down the path. We might as well use up all these tokens. How about trying to win that pillow again? 4 goes each and another batch of tiny fluffy toys until Cal asked the attendant exactly how much the heart pillow was and could they just buy one. Mia left clutching the pillow and only 3 tokens left. The twins returned with none. We've run out of tokens. Time to go home, Cal said. You have enough for another 2-headed snake meal and we could take a bite each, Kira said. Go, Mia said. We'll wait here again. I love them as much as you, I think, she said when the flashing girls had run off again. Cal said nothing other than reaching his free arm around her middle and holding her close to him. Back in the sea, Stallion and still the girls talking about the carnival and the rides they thought best. Cal tried to get something useful happening. While we've got parking here, is there time to replace that broken part on the ether coils? Apparently there was, but the job could only be done with dancing shoes. Cal helped hold tools up the ladder and the whole job was done in less than half an hour. Back together in the control room, Cal interrupted the carnival talk once again to ask, when we were coming here there were problems with dust levels on the protective screens. I thought our screens were strong enough to push past that dust. That certainly stopped chatter for longer than Cal expected. It was Kyra that answered, eventually. The protective screens use a lot of power to do their job. The more dust and debris, the more power they need. This ship doesn't have much power left, once we power the life systems and the drives. I was told there was enough power for at least another year before refueling, Cal said. This ship has 26 energy pods, Kyra said, and 24 of them are below 1%. The other 2 are just holding 5%, Kira added. Used spaceship salesman, Mia muttered. Cal was thinking of stronger words. Then Mia said loudly. 26 is a lot of energy pods. Even the biggest ship I've been in only had 8. They were needed for the layers of shields and the weapons, Kyra said. With this amount of power we could drive straight through the center of the galaxy and hardly know we were there. 2.5 million credits of epturium rods, Cal said shaking his head slowly from side to side. They must have only powered this enough to get it sold, Mia said. Not epturium rods, Kira said. Plutonium rods. They're more powerful. And banned, Kyra said. They're not allowed without special permission. Only the military can get them. Even asking about them can have the Imperial Guards chasing you, Kyra said. We know that for sure. Cal sat silent as he watched his dreams dissipate in front of him, then Mia asked, how long can we fly with what power we have? If we're careful with the shields, and keep doing what we do now, maybe 2 to 3 months, Kira said, Kyra nodding alongside her. Full energy pods should be good for 100 years, even with shields and blasters. That last place we went to. They have epturium rods, and they'll do them without paperwork for a price, Cal said. Maybe they might have the plutonium ones too. Was that what we took in that briefcase? Mia asked. 6 rods at 100,000 each. We get paid more if there is no paperwork. We'll need to get some good paying jobs and quickly. Rods work in pairs, Kira said. So we need 2 to start. Professor Frank knew about them, Kyra said suddenly. When he mentioned them in class I saw his eyes. He told us never to ask, but he knew. He did too, Kira said. Remember, he was the one who pointed where we could find those old books about Imperial ship security. And he saved us when those Imperial guards came looking for us about those thruster improvements. They would have worked good if we had more power. And we knew how to make them stop exploding, Kira added. Sounds like you were not the best students, Mia said. Professor Frank said we would have been his best students ever, Kira said indignantly. If we stopped trying to improve things, Kira added quietly. Maybe we should visit this Professor Frank and ask him in person, Cal suggested. Back to our old school, Kira said excitedly. We can tell everyone about our adventures. Our class would love to know what we've been doing. You were still in class, Mia asked quietly. But we know more than our classmates, Kira said looking down at the floor. And we can fix anything on this ship, Kira added looking directly at Cal. So you don't have your certificates, Mia said, turning to look at Cal. Did you know that? Do they really need certificates? Cal asked. I've got a pilot's certificate and you've got a captain's certificate. To do Imperial work, everyone needs a certificate. I thought since I owned the ship I didn't need a certificate. Anyhow, our engineers are great even without the paperwork. But how did you get that freight agent? Mr. Slee was the only one who didn't ask for paperwork. Mia was shaking her head. What have I got myself into? We might as well paint a pirate flag on the hull right now. We can help paint the flag, Kira said. We'll look up the right design on the web, Kira added quickly. Before we think about pirate flags, how about you girls message your professor and try to arrange a meeting, but let Mia check everything before you send it. Mia was still shaking her head, but Cal was sure it was mainly for show. As the twins concentrated on crafting the message, Mia whispered, You really don't have your captain's papers. Most likely wouldn't get them if I tried, Cal said. But I only ever wanted my own ship, and owning the ship makes me captain, and if my crew are my family they don't need qualifications either. But we're not family. If you marry me and we adopt the girls. They have their own family, Mia said, and Cal noticed she said nothing about not marrying him. The message to the professor was finally complete and approved by Mia, and Cal called for the ship to be lifted up to a parking orbit before their parking time expired. The ship sensors set to watch for anything coming close. Cal settled down to rest while they waited for any reply. He knew he was asleep when they received a reply from the message. Not from the message beep itself, but the yelling of the twins. The professor wanted to call them directly, the message saying he wanted to see the twins to make sure they were alive. Cal was still feeling groggy when the twins set up the call, but he was seeing enough of the screen to see that the professor was certainly very old, although his face looked alert. The twins were both talking together, trying to tell everything they'd done in the last few days. Cal got a chance to talk when the professor asked to speak with the captain of the vessel. Cal. Captain of the Sea Stallion, Cal said when he was allowed to stand in front of the screen, watching the professor scan him up and down. Young for a captain, the man said while Cal felt eyes boring into his through the screen. Yes, I am young, sir. But I have a good amount of experience and I'm doing something I've dreamt of all my life. The girls seem well. The best engineers a captain could ask for. We consider them part of our family. Your wife the pilot. Mia is the best pilot. I trust her completely to guide us safely throughout the galaxy. Cal was watching the professor's eyes. Seeing them still assessing him. Very old ship. Maybe the last of its line. It's a Mark III, Kira yelled from the side. Old, but built well, Cal said. We should meet, the professor said, his voice a little less formal now. I would like for my students to examine an ancient ship like that, and I'm sure we all have many questions. Any time and place, Cal said. Message with details in 5 minutes. We'll talk more then. And the connection was cut dead. The Sea Stallion Book 1. Big Dreams but No Credits. A Space Adventure. By Mystic Alchemist. Copyright 2023-2024 Mystic Alchemist. All rights reserved. Written in Australian English. This book is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places and incidents are either a product of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual people living or dead, events or locales is purely coincidental. Cover and text written and assembled by hand without use of artificial intelligence.